The first Europeans to set foot in the New World. Part 9. The Atlantic World and the Transformation of Global History. By the early 17th century, the encounter between Europe and the Americas had evolved into something far larger than exploration or colonization. It had become a vast, interconnected system known as the Atlantic World. This system linked Europe, Africa, and the Americas through trade, migration, labor, and power, permanently reshaping global history. The Atlantic Ocean, once feared as an impassable barrier, became a highway of exchange. Ships crossed it continuously, carrying people, goods, ideas, and disease. Never before had the world experienced such sustained intercontinental interaction. The consequences were profound and irreversible. Europe changed dramatically. Gold and silver extracted from the Americas flooded European economies. Spanish silver from mines such as Potosí and Zacatecas fueled global trade, but also caused severe inflation. Traditional economic systems destabilized, and new financial institutions emerged to manage risk and capital. American silver flowed far beyond Europe. Large quantities reached Asia, especially China, where silver was essential to the monetary system. In this way, the Americas became central to the first truly global economy. The Columbian Exchange reshaped agriculture. Crops such as maize, potatoes, tomatoes, cacao, and peppers spread from the Americas to Europe, Africa, and Asia. These foods supported population growth and transformed diets worldwide. In return, Europeans introduced wheat, sugarcane, rice, livestock, and horses to the Americas, altering landscapes and lifeways permanently. Disease was the most devastating exchange. Old World diseases, smallpox, measles, influenza, and typhus, spread rapidly through indigenous populations with no immunity. Mortality rates were catastrophic, often exceeding half the population within a century. Entire societies collapsed. Labor systems adapted to colonial demands. When indigenous labor declined, Europeans turned increasingly to African labor. The transatlantic slave trade became a central pillar of the Atlantic world. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, over 12 million Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic. Millions died during capture, transport, or enslavement. Survivors endured brutal conditions on plantations, in mines, and in households throughout the Americas. This system was essential to colonial economies. Sugar, tobacco, cotton, and silver production depended on enslaved labor. European wealth and industrial development were deeply tied to this exploitation. The Atlantic world functioned as a triangular system. European goods were exchanged in Africa for enslaved people. Enslaved Africans were transported to the Americas. American raw materials were shipped to Europe. Each leg of this triangle generated profit. Port cities such as Lisbon, Seville, London, and Amsterdam flourished. Banking, insurance, and capitalist institutions expanded rapidly. Cultural transformation followed. European, African, and indigenous peoples interacted in complex ways. New identities, languages, religions, and traditions emerged. Resistance was constant, through rebellion, escape, and cultural survival. Ideas crossed the Atlantic. Racial ideologies were constructed to justify enslavement and conquest. At the same time, ideas of liberty and rights circulated, shaped by lived experiences of oppression and resistance. Environmental change was immense. Forests were cleared, ecosystems altered, and landscapes reshaped by agriculture and mining. The environmental consequences of the Atlantic world continue to affect the planet today. By the 18th century, the Atlantic world was fully formed. It generated extraordinary wealth and extraordinary suffering. It bound continents together and created the foundations of the modern world. In the final part of this series, we will examine the long-term legacy of the first Europeans in America and how this history continues to shape identity and memory.